Welcome to the Norwood Conservation Commission meeting for April 3rd, 2019. If anybody has a recording device, please let us know. Open roll call.
Peter Bamber.
Joe DiMaria.
John Gear.
Lee Leach.
Cheryl Doyle.
Chris Capizio.
Steve Washburn.
Al Getz.
Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. We're going to start off with item 4 on the treasurer's report.
And I have nothing tonight on that.
Nothing, huh?
Nothing.
Okay. Al, you're up. Conservation report.
Okay, first thing is that this week the skating club is getting started. Started with their surveying work, and they're going to move their trailer in on Thursday. And I will meet with them on next week on Monday or Tuesday as they start putting down their erosion control. So things are getting going there. I've received a lot of emails and such from the Trails Committee, and the Trails Committee is looking to do something with Earth Day, and it involves NEPRA cleaning up, and I don't know what that means because NEPRA has not talked to me about any cleanups. And the things refer to Lee quite often, and I'd like Lee to inform us of what's going on with the Trails Committee.
Okay, I understand that first of all, they are petitioned to come next week or at our next meeting.
Mm-hmm.
So I will try to be as brief as I can around Earth Day, which is scheduled the last Sunday in April. We participated as a subcommittee last year, and when the group approached us again this season, we were as enthusiastic to participate. That the activities that we just met last night to sort of bring this in a better focus as a subcommittee of the Trails Committee. There was 3 or 4 of us that met together. It's basically the same kind of thing, Earth Day activities around that Sunday. There's 2 focuses. One is a cleanup section, and the second that would be in the morning at different sites around town. The 2 sites that the Trails Committee were looking at basically to police and pick up trash, that kind of activity, would be the Andine property, and the other area would be Hennessy, which is also a neighborhood area that sometimes isn't as well policed as we think it ought to be. So we're aware of that the Andine property is part of the conservation, and we would meet at the pool area there, and depending on how many people show up, be able to police that. There'll be a coordinator on site, so it wouldn't be just open-ended, that kind of thing. The second part of that would be up at the Common. If the weather's good, tables will be set up. The Trails Committee would have a table and some exposure to do information exchanges with the general public as they come up to the Common. So the cleanup activity is about an hour and a half. Starts at 9:30 on Sunday morning at those 2 sites. There are a lot of other sites also part of overall Earth Day that's coordinated through mostly the, at the schools and other areas in town. That is, can be found on their website. I'm sorry, I don't know the actual address of the website off the top of my head, but I'm sure if you just Googled a Norwood Earth Day, you'd be able to find that. The second aspect of that, which is up at the Common, would be starting at 11:30 and goes till 1. So,
So who should we see about volunteering for that day?
so you can go and sign up for that.
Just on the website?
On the website,
Okay.
or just show up to. We're not limiting it to people who don't sign up but do want to come and volunteer.
Okay, great.
Is it like Together Yes or Impact Norwood?
It's,
Search Norwood Earth Day on Facebook.
Yeah.
It's
Oh, great.
Norwood,
I've seen this around.
Progress Norwood.
Progress, okay.
Progress Norwood.
But they
yeah.
say right on their
Yeah,
flyer,
yeah.
search Norwood.
Yeah.
What's it got to do with Norwood and the Charles River running? What's that mean?
Well, they're one of the groups that participate. There are quite a few groups this year that are going to be represented on the Common. I'm not sure the list of everybody there,
That's the store.
but were purported to be one of the groups that would be part of there.
Okay. I still don't know what the Neponset Watershed Association is planning to do. And if you are referring as cleanup, just picking up trash and bottles, cans, papers, and all that stuff, that's a very good thing.
You're right. There'll be trash bags and recyclables
Yeah.
put in recyclable containers as part of the cleanup part. As I'm not sure exactly how what the Neponset River Watershed got. They're not officially involved with Earth Day activity, but I believe they're proposing to do a cleanup of just the river, just the brook, Hosbrook, on the Saturday before Earth Day as part of the Earth Day week or Earth Week.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure how that's all going to fit in with the overall activities down in that area, because there's quite a few activities going on during
I
on
just
Saturday
wanna,
as well.
in the emails from Joe was, I didn't understand what NEPRA was planning to do, so.
Okay.
As long as that's trash pickup, that's not a big issue.
Yeah, I think it's just basically to pick up the trash in the brook, Hosbrook.
Okay.
Most of their cleanups have been
Yeah.
exactly that.
And from what I understand, it would be just the brook and not the river, not the.
And that's
River.
a very good thing, because people do leave trash around. In relation to trash, you know that I was on vacation last week, and for a couple of those days I was at Disney World. And I go there in the spring, this particular time frame, because at Epcot they have what they call a flower show.
Mhm.
And they have special gardens and things, one of which was about bees. And they have a lot of education work, getting people to deal with bees in the garden. And then they have a butterfly house made of big screen tents. And in there, they also have an educational part. And just down the street from there, they had a major display, and I will try to get a reminder to take it off my phone, a picture of a sculpture of a penguin. Okay, this penguin is about 7 feet tall, and it's entirely made up of plastic trash that floats up on the ocean. If you look at the breast part of the penguin, it's a lot of the pieces that are hanging there, the plastic, are watch bands and plastic watches that have floated up onto beaches and been collected. And there's, in this display, there's tons and tons of plastic stuff that has floated up. Some of it you can't imagine what it was, but some of it is very identifiable. So I found that very interesting from an environmental point of view. I knew that we keep hearing reports of how plastic is floating around in the Pacific Ocean in a particular spot. And the outcome of those reports is they're suggesting restaurants stop using plastic straws. Well, at Disney, they give straws, but they're paper straws. And they're far superior to the old paper straws that were made out of wax paper. These are much nicer, but they do, if you leave it in a drink for a period of time, they do start to deteriorate, which is the desirable thing. That's what they're looking
Paper
for.
mulch.
Well, okay, so it's paper, and that's their solution to the straw business and getting the plastic straws out of the environment. You know, when we travel, any one of us, because of our interest in the environment, we always pick out certain things that we get interested in. And this year, that big display of floatable plastics that is washed up on beaches really hit me. And as I say, I will try to make sure everybody gets a copy of that picture. Okay, so as I say, skating club is getting started. That's our biggest project at the present time. Okay. Anything else?
You got 2 minutes.
Well, let's see.
You want to finish the list then? If he doesn't
How's the
have
light department
anything?
doing? You been down there?
They mostly working on the building at the moment. They were supposed to start on the roof this week. They held off because of the threat yesterday, which didn't amount to a whole lot. The forecast was sort of frightening, but my rain gauge showed less than a half an inch, 0.4. So that they will start on some of the outside stuff. They've already put in the oil water separator for the stormwater system. Project's come along good, and the airport is getting started on their building, and they're looking for support at town meeting, I believe, for the new hangar. So those are the things that I've been involved with. We had here at Town Hall and all the other public parts of the town, it started from the library. The Library Association with the Bruins have been doing a pajama drive every spring for little kids, giving warm PJs to kids in need. And the town of Bourne down the Cape is the largest collector of pajamas, and I guess we came in second with 2,500 pair of kids' pajamas. So, from onesies and twosies up to 10 and 11-year-olds. So,
Well, it's 7:45 now, I'm gonna have to cut you short now.
okay.
So next on the agenda is, excuse me, United Consultants Incorporated representing DCD Realty, DEP file number 2510503, Norwood number 201814, project location 84 Moore Street. Al?
We received, I had a couple of conversations with Brian Donahue, and we received a report of somebody he contacted with at
No, this is, we're
UMass.
talking about 84 Morse.
Oh, okay. Okay, 84 Morse is the car
The order,
park.
yeah, the
Mhm.
orders of conditions.
And I generated an order of conditions. Cheryl made a couple of comments, and Joe made a couple of comments. And the most important one, I think, aside from a couple of spelling mistakes and things like that, is he asked to have a condition about sheet flow off the site into the river. And I added that to F19, which deals with the stormwater being treated before it's released, and I made that as a second part to that. So basically, that's the changes that we have promoted. No, it's not F19.
Which one is it?
Is it F19.10?
Yeah,
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 yeah.
.1.
It's on page 9 of
Yeah,
12. Yep.
okay, yeah. Yeah, okay. That's and the 19 without it, I felt was to the point of, took care of getting all water through a cleaning system. But this spells it out maybe a little clearer that there's no water that's supposed to go into the river without being treated, sort of.
Has anybody got any
emphasizes that.
questions or comments?
I'd like to make a motion to
Sure.
accept the orders of conditions as is.
I'll second.
May I understand the public hearing is closed. For the record, David Hearn, Junior Attorney at Law, on behalf of the applicant. Mr. Chairman, there were a couple of points that we got a look at the draft order this afternoon, and a couple of clarifications I just asked about before it's finalized. At A,
We have to
.01,
reopen it.
0.00, this I'm not offering testimony, I'm just saying, want some clarification.
Yeah.
Is in the third sentence, it refers to the order being recorded, which we understand, and a building permit is obtained. Construction cannot begin.
Point of order, we would need to reopen the hearing to have this discussion, I believe.
I'm not offering testimony, I'm just asking clarification, whatever the board think, whatever you think. But
No, I think it's fine to get clarification on it.
Yeah, I'm just, if no building permit is required, this language would prevent us from beginning construction. Do you mean if a building permit is required?
Yeah,
Which one
yeah,
are
think-
you on?
The first one,
Yeah,
Yeah.
The very first one?
yeah. So with the language, if required, provide some clarification after building permit.
well,
Because it required, maybe, I don't want to.
I don't think
When you've closed it.
I don't
Mr.
think it
Chairman.
affects you because you're not building anything
Right,
there at
so
the
it's-
present time.
It's just
a
a
moot point.
standard,
It's
it's a standard one that we always have on all of them.
Why don't we, make a motion to reopen the hearing?
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
If I could address it, thank
Yep.
you. The requirement is that construction cannot begin until the order has been recorded and a building permit is obtained. I would say if a
Second.
building permit is, if required, would
Mhm.
clarify. If there's no building permit required, this language still prevents us from doing
Okay.
anything. So if there's no building permit required, we should still be able to proceed once we record the order and do all the other stuff that the order conditions requires. And so I would ask that you add the language, if required, at the end of that, after building permit,
I think
Yeah,
that's-
okay.
comma, if required, comma,
Mhm.
is obtained. And on the next one, I'm sorry, I think there was a typo at A04, but maybe you caught that. Preformed, I think, was supposed to be performed. The other question I had at A10, Mr. Chairman, I understand the need for monthly on-site review meetings, but is that intended to be only during construction and until the issuance of the certificate of compliance? We're not gonna have monthly meetings for the rest of our lives, I take it, but only
No.
during construction. So would, as a phrase, that phrase, clarify it on A10. During construction and until the issuance of a certificate of compliance, monthly on-site review meetings, and the rest of it continues.
Mhm.
It would seem to me that is the intention, but these things get picked
Yeah.
apart later on after
Yep,
we're
that makes
left,
sense.
a year or two down the road.
Well, after a certificate of compliance is issued, there's no conditions to review.
Well, but this, I'm concerned
Yeah.
that this language does require, because it says to review compliance with the notice of intent and the order conditions, and we have to comply with the order conditions for all time.
Mhm.
It's permanent. So I just wanted to clarify that the monthly meetings are only required during construction and until the certificate of compliance is issued.
Yeah, okay,
We can do that.
yeah.
At A13, it appears to prohibit the use of the existing building until a certificate of compliance is issued. It refers to the existing or newly erected premises shall not be occupied until a certificate of compliance has been issued and registered at the registry of deeds. We have an existing building, we're already using it, and this language could be interpreted to require us to vacate the building or cease using it. I did not understand that that was the intent of the commission, and I would want to remove reference to existing premises. Newly erected premises, if there are, I mean, we're not planning to build any new buildings.
No, you need the permit for that.
We would, but I mean, it says we can't even use it
No,
until we
I
get a
understand
certificate
that.
of compliance, so, yeah, we agree with that. But the existing building does not require a certificate of compliance to
Mhm.
use, it's pre-existing. And so I'd want to remove any, ask the commission to remove any reference to the existing premises.
I would agree with that. Al, do you have an issue?
Yeah.
No, I don't have any.
Okay.
And then I think this may be the last one, A29 prohibits the transfer of any portion of the property prior to the issuance of a certificate of compliance. And since the Saints lot is, I believe, affected by this, shown on our plans, that might prevent any possible future transfer of the Saints lot to the town.
Joe?
Since you're a lawyer, I'm gonna ask you back on this. Normally, if somebody buys a piece of property, and if they have a good real estate lawyer, they do their due diligence, they're gonna look for it to see if it's registered. So then how does that impact it?
Well, I think that if somebody wanted to buy it, they might want a partial certificate of compliance. If there's somebody that might want to buy it, it may very well be the town of Norwood. And this is preventing it. Unless, I mean, we're not doing any work anyway on the Saints lot. So either exclude it, except it was included in the application and shown on the plans, or, and it's actually part of the land court lot, or one of the land court lots. a larger, it's part of a larger lot that we're going to be using as part of this project. So at some point, it has to be separated. I'm concerned, though, that we're unnecessarily going to tie everybody's hands on this.
Oh, can I ask you another question then? I heard that nothing was gonna be done with St. Louis Street until late fall. Then is that not true?
It's not on the warrant for either the special or the annual. It won't be, can't be. Special's already
So
signed.
it's not gonna happen in the spring.
It's not gonna happen in the spring. It can't, because the conditions haven't been met yet.
Do you have a solution for how to word this
Well,
so that it allows the subdivision of the Saints lot off of the rest of the property?
I suppose perhaps it could say that unless no lots can be sold or ownership transferred until a partial certificate of compliance
Okay,
relative to such lot or lots has been issued by the commission.
why don't you try lots north of the brook and west of the river may be sold. That would give you the lots that are not being there. If we include that, should that help? Lots north of the brook.
Is that a sufficient description? I think we all know what we mean by that.
Cheryl, did you
That's
have
clear
something?
enough.
Well, the second half of the statement, it says, in lieu of a certificate of compliance, a bond satisfactory to the commission shall be posted to assure the completion of the project. Then if you're putting a bond in lieu of the certificate, doesn't that still give you the right to sell it? No?
Why should we post a bond to sell something, say, to the town? On a piece of property that we're not doing any work on anyway?
No, but the bond is for where you're doing the work.
It is, but the sale of the Saints lot would not change our obligations under the certificate, the order of conditions, nor would it change the scope of our project, because it's a piece of land that we're not using in this project,
Then
as
can we?
far as doing actual work on it.
Okay. Oh, I'm not trying to give you a hard time. I was just trying to figure out if the lieu of the bond in lieu of, then can we just word it that excluding the Saint Street lot? Just put it in black and white
Yeah,
out
why
there.
not?
Probably anyway, say the town buys the Saints lot.
Yeah.
You know, town meeting, everybody agrees that we're gonna, we work out all the details and it gets sold. Probably buyer's counsel is going to want a partial certificate of compliance from this commission. I know you can't commit to giving that, but I would think you would not want to have a prohibition on the transfer, which is how I read this language.
Can
So
I-
I think Mr. Di Maria's suggestion about defining the lot is helpful, because that is the land we're talking about. West-
You've got
I
four
don't have the-
boundaries.
I don't have the plan in front of me, but I think you're correct, north and west.
You've basically got four boundaries. You've got the boundary of the brook, you've got the boundary of the river, you've got the boundary of
The school on the other
The
end.
neighborhood, and you've got the boundary with the.
school
with
and the,
fields
whatever road that is.
Yep.
If we can come up with with four sides of that lot, then it's pretty well defined.
I don't even think you need the four sides, because we only control the part. If we define it as you first defined it,
Okay.
Mhm.
North.
north and
North
west,
of
you know,
North and west of the Ponset,
that would
because like I
define the
said,
property we're talking about well enough.
You
But I just
feel
think
that
everybody
that would
wants-
work?
I think everybody wants
You have an
Want
issue with
it
that,
out.
Al?
I don't have any.
Well, then I think let's just-
Okay, can we
So would it be
reword
like-
it now?
After listening to
Okay.
David, I understand his concern,
So
because it
lots-
hasn't been subdivided off.
So Al, you'll change it to the lot north and west of the Neponset?
Yeah, we can do something like
And then
that.
buyer's counsel could ask for a partial certificate or
Yeah.
some release. The partial certificate is
do
the
that.
equivalent of the release.
Yep.
Anyway.
Yep.
And So,
How long do you expect to take to do this lot since you're not doing a building?
I'm sorry?
How long do you expect to be working on the lot since you guys aren't doing a building?
I don't know how long it's going to take.
I think a future condition is limited the order to 1 year. If the work isn't completed within the 1 year, we would have to.
No, but that's not what I'm asking. So is it gonna take you 6 months to do this lot the way you want it, or? Cause it was my understanding you guys need to get the shovels in the ground so you can get the cars on the lot.
Yeah, we need to, Chris Dadgis, by the way, one of the owners at DCD. But yeah, to your point, our goal is to get it done as soon as possible, like, as soon as we can, to get it done and do it the right way, so.
Okay.
We can't start for a few months. 2 months anyway. This is appealable for 60 days.
Is it 60? I thought it was 20 for this.
Under the bylaw, the local bylaw is appealable
Oh.
for 60 days.
Right.
And your order of conditions prohibits the work prior to the expiration of the appeal period. So that brings us into June, late June, before we can even theoretically start, unless the commission gives us leave to start at our peril. That'd be for another day.
Are there any other issues that you have?
No, I think I ran out of time, but Mr. Susi had reviewed it also, and he was, I think, essentially satisfied. I have a suggested language for A29. At the end of the first sentence, add, except that the Saints lot being in quotes perhaps, so-called, located, I'm sorry, except for the Saints lot, so-called, located north of Horsbrook and west of the Neponset River, period. So nothing can be sold without a certificate of compliance except for the Saints lot. And I can
Okay.
type that up
Right.
and forward that tomorrow, because nobody can read my writing anyway. And that,
Okay.
So forward all of the suggestions you have
okay.
voiced here to remind us tomorrow
I'm
morning.
on tomorrow.
Yeah.
And that way, but if the commission otherwise accepts those changes, nothing prohibits.
I don't
getting
see
voted.
an issue.
Okay, so because we reopened the hearing, do we need to query if anybody from the public has anything to ask before we close it?
Does anybody have anything to add? No? Okay.
I make a motion to close the hearing?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Did I need to modify my motion on accepting these?
Or reissue your motion, one of the.
Yeah. I'll just modify. Okay. I'll modify it. I'm gonna modify my motion to accept the orders and conditions with the,
Revisions.
yeah, the revisions that were made.
As agreed upon.
Yeah, agreed upon.
Second.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. Motion passes.
We're all set.
All
Thank
set.
you very much.
Vote on?
It was,
So-
Oh,
7-0.
well, we have to vote on it. Guys, we have to vote
on the
on,
whole project.
no, on issuing it.
You just voted to accept
Accept.
these.
Okay, I make a motion
Okay.
that we
Make the
Okay.
motion to
issue it.
approve and issue.
Do I have a second?
Second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We should probably
Did you
take,
to ask if anybody was opposed?
I did. I didn't I?
No.
Oh, anybody opposed?
No.
7-0.
7-0.
You're all set.
Thank you all.
Okay, so,
I'd like to meet with you guys sometime in the
Since-
next couple of weeks.
Vanderbilt is asking for a continuance. I think we should take the 8 o'clock, right?
Yeah, I mean, unless you guys want to vote on that real quick.
Yeah, we could
Oh,
do that
just
too.
to-
So, Norwood Engineering has sent us an email. The engineer has asked us in behalf of the applicant to continue this hearing until April 17th. And I suppose we would
Hi, guys.
continue it to what, 7:30? Give them 7:30? Or no?
We have 2 other items on, so we have to go on.
Okay, so 8 o'clock, So do I
So
have
moved.
a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Start the next one.
Do you need, oh,
Is that yours?
Yes,
Oh, it's two, huh?
yes. Oh, you got two. Oh, you want here too.
Okay.
I have to borrow a pen.
So, next up, Goldman Environmental Consultants Incorporated, representing Peter Cantonese II, DBA Central Auto Team, DEP file number 2510497, Norwood number 201808, project location Providence, Boston Providence Turnpike. Al?
During the winter, I've had a couple of conversations with Brian Donahue from GEC. And he had contacted somebody he knew at UMass. And I received from Brian some material in regards to our problem of identifying materials at the site on Route 1, and it seems that this gentleman at UMass has submitted a very elaborate report of what's growing there. And it looks to me like the results of his analysis tell us that most of the material growing there is upland species. And previous to that, our peer review consultant, David Cowell, and Brian came to an agreement as to where the wetland line was. So I think that we have enough information before us to look at closing this project out and certifying the wetland line through the process. So I'd like Brian or whoever's sitting behind me to speak on that.
Brian?
I'll just introduce myself. I'm Matthew Watsky here as counsel for the applicant, but I'll only speak if really necessary, because as Brian showed at this point.
Brian?
Thanks. So as Al said, we went and took samples, 2 samples actually, of the predominant grass that was in question within this area, and sent it to UMass, and they were able to do the analysis, confirming that the red fescue was there. The perennial rye that I had identified was actually tall rye or tall fescue. They're virtually identical plants, and they did a DNA assessment of those in order to make sure they were right. But they actually looked at it and said, you know, this is, both of them are still back up. So in my analysis, this area that we had looked at with David, and I had determined was upland, the ophthalmometer plant still satisfies the percentage of actually between 65 and 95% upland species. Again, as David said and I've said, there are individual plants that are wetland species in there, and there are individual plants that are upland species all mixed in, so they kind of cancel each other out. They're only individuals here and there. So that's consistent with what we submitted before, and I would see if there's any questions, because I think we're...
Before you hand it off for questions, I thought it was very helpful for me to understand what was going on when you explained to me how you selected the areas to take the samples from and how large a sample you took that got sent
Yeah.
off to UMass?
Well, I don't know if you have the plan, no. If you remember, there was, I actually have the plan, I think. Yeah. And I put inside the package I sent you some background information on those plants, species that come from, I utilize the NRCS plant database, which most everyone does. I also put in there, I'm a long-term member of the Wild Plant Society in Framingham, and they have a botany webpage that's excellent to identify, and I use them all the time. I use them to make these analyses. But just to give you a sense of some of the complexity of doing this. Let me just show you that. On the plan, there was this is the area of head wall where some of you have noticed there's a small pocket of Phragmites at the end of a totally unmaintained drainage system from Route 1. And David, in his report, says this is not a wetland, it's isolated, it's very small. So I took my samples right here, which is where he and I had said he was concerned, and the samples actually are right here. Oh, in my hand. Those are the samples that I took, which I sent in gallon bags to them. But it was representative of the major, all this was basically the same kind of plants. So it is representative. And I still have them. They grew all winter long, believe it or not. So, if there's any other questions, I'll be happy.
So, do you want to pass that along so that they understand? So does anybody have any questions?
I do.
Okay.
I went to the site subsequent to this. Unfortunately, the site was not marked where exactly it wasn't flagged where these samples were taken. They were both taken, within 50 feet of each other?
Approximately, yeah.
Out of how long a site is it?
Oh, probably 600-700 feet.
Okay. It doesn't seem representative.
But, excuse me, but where you took the samples was the area that was in contention between,
No,
I'm wrong?
you're wrong.
Okay.
The area I took a sample was the place
Was
that,
one of the areas.
the entire area that is within the wetland upland zone
Mm-hmm.
consists mainly of these plants. So I took two that were in the places that David and I, when we were out there, had a little bit of, he had a little bit of concern, not me. So I purposely went to those two places where we had the drainage coming off Route 1, that little pocket, but it immediately sinks into the ground, and there's no evidence of any wetland vegetation. So I thought that was,
Well, that's what I meant. That was the area that
Right.
you and the other
Correct.
engineer were concerned with.
Right.
Okay, and you were aware of that too, Al?
Yeah, and I guess if you search that area, the whole mode section, when it grows a little bit, you will find that there are a few wetland plants here and there, some sedges and some other things. And the requirement is here that the predominant species are upland, not wetland. So if there's only a few wetland species, that doesn't make it a wetland. In my vegetable garden, I have a hard time keeping out purple loosestrife. And then in another part of my vegetable garden, I grow purposely a few plants of skunk cabbage. And they will grow in your garden if you want them to. I do it because I learned a long time ago that if you plant cabbage or broccoli or some of these plants that we buy seedlings and plant them in the spring, and you get them chewed off by cutworms, if you take a skunk cabbage leaf, make a little slit in it, tear a little slit in it, and put it around the little seedling, and I use two pieces, one from two different directions, the cutworms don't cut it off because they can't stand the smell. So I grow some skunk cabbage, which is a wetland plant, in my vegetable garden, so I always have a few leaves of that in the spring. So there are, in this site, some wetland plants, yes, there are a few sedges here and there, but they're not the predominant species. So I still think that the mowed area within the bounds of the wetland line that two people have agreed upon mark out the limits of the area that can be used.
So you're in agreement with the wetland that was delineated?
Based upon your statements, the predominant is upland, you're convinced of that. The document you sent around has been that. I would make a motion to confirm the ANRAD then.
Do I have a second?
No, I want to speak on it.
Okay, go ahead.
From the letter from David from Hancock, he agrees that we need to wait for the growing season, and I still feel we need to wait the growing season. It's one more month. At the meeting back in November of 2018, this board agreed on a growing season. This testing was done 2 days, the soil was popped out 2 days after we agreed on the soil testing. It's only 2 samples that are 8 inches wide out of that entire lot. One of the plants is a wetland. There's a lot of hydric soil that's stating it is wetland. And I prefer to wait for the growing season.
The other thing, if I may, I hadn't finished. Had a site visit there recently. I walked, as you know, from the driveway entrance. There's a filled area that's perpendicular to Route 1. It's about 20 or 30 feet wide that runs all the way back to the treat area. On either side of that, after a rainstorm, there were puddles in the soil. That is not generally high and dry soil. It is generally wetlands. And as I walked away from that, it was very difficult to stay on top of the soil because of the wet on both sides of where that was. So I would tend to agree with Cheryl that we should wait for a month or so when the vegetation is what it's supposed to be and do what is generally required as a wetland identification.
And let David go out and review it.
We've actually heard what the wetland identification is for a number of people, and frankly, I think you're both just wasting their time.
Not wasting the time.
I just made my statement, you can make
Okay.
yours.
All right.
I'm not going on record, I feel you're wasting their time. I think you're both
Okay.
being obstructionists,
No.
on the record.
No, we had voted back in November, and I
I'm gonna
think we
say,
should
you're not
go
gonna
by
convince
what
me
we
differently.
voted. That's fine, it's your opinion. I just feel we should go by what we voted as a board in November. It's the growing season, it's 1 month.
Mhm. So there's gonna be a predominant of wetland plants in a month? No, there's not. You both know that.
I would rather wait the
You
1
know there
month.
won't be a
No.
predominant of wetland plants in a month. You know
Okay,
that.
if there's not then they get a vote of 5.
Okay.
If there are no predominant wetland plants, they get the vote of 5. If you push it tonight, they don't get the vote of 5, so then it's actually doing him a disservice. I would rather err on
I'm
the
not
side
doing
of
any of
caution.
the disservice. We know who was doing the disservice, so
Well, you know what, that's really kind of sucky, because we've already
Oh.
walked the lot, we agreed on something, and that now you're gonna do this poo-poo stuff like that?
This
That
isn't
kind of
this
sucks.
isn't
that's
productive.
not
So
being
let's-
professional whatsoever.
Let's just
Well,
stop
you're
this
not
now.
being professional neither by saying we're holding up the applicant. We're not. 1 month. That's all it is 1 friggin' month.
Again, your
Okay.
language is wholly inappropriate. You should be ashamed of yourself.
So, what Cheryl says is accurate. Two of
Right.
the members can't vote because they haven't been involved with it long enough. So that leaves 5 members to vote. So you would need 4 votes in the affirmative.
Which you clearly don't have.
Actually, I disagree with you about that. The way DEP regulations work, you have a meeting of a quorum of the members who are then in office. So if you have 2 members who are ineligible, your meeting is 5, and then you need a majority of the 5, which is 3. So you don't take a vote having to get a majority of the members in office. You only take a vote and get a majority of the members who are eligible to vote.
That's not what
Our
town
town
council.
council has given us different information, which, you know my position on this subject, obviously, based upon my comments tonight. But if town council has told us that that's not the case, and we proceed to vote in that manner, I don't know what that would do to the situation.
Has town council actually given you advice on that leading up to this particular hearing?
In the past.
In the past.
Mr. Cantonese, would it actually harm you to wait the 1 month? Just the 1 month that was agreed upon back in November? Just wait for the growing season, let David go back out, he can meet with your guy, go through the lot, they decide, and then come back. Is it gonna have that much of an impact?
Yes. I've been here 4 times, and everything's changed 4
But-
times.
No.
So you asked me a question, I'm answering it, because
Yeah.
I don't know what you're gonna come up with another month from now. I thought the board was to work together. You constantly find a reason for this not to get approved. And I've asked you twice, if you don't want it done, just tell me, and I'll drop it.
No, it's not
You-
that.
You asked me and I answered, yes, it would be a problem. I've got a ton of money invested in this. You've also had me invest additional monies, hiring additional people. I've got the people that write the DEP for the state working here.
Can I respond to that? Number one, we didn't ask for you to do the DNA testing. We had asked you in November to come back according to Hancock to allow for the growing season. You chose to come back on this meeting, so that part isn't our fault. I would rather wait, let Hancock walk out there with your engineer so you have a complete, clean bill of health on it.
Well, let me answer that again. This started with Al Getz a while ago, looking at it, walking it, being told what to do, how to maintain it, keep it clean, cut the grass, make it look nice. I did all that. Then your board, last meeting, 2 meetings ago, tells me to stay off the property, don't cut the grass, don't pick up the papers. So you constantly change each time I've come here, what your demands are. So I don't know what you want. I've hired the best people to look at it. You've had me hire additional people to look at it, and they basically said, no, we can't find anything, maybe let it grow. Growing is not gonna make a difference. I don't have the knowledge that Al has, and that these people have, and they're telling me what it is. I wouldn't be back here again.
We have a letter
You know,
from
to-
David.
To say that it's wet, yes, you're right, 100% it's wet. Every time it rains, my backyard, I can't walk in my backyard. I mean, I sink in my backyard when I walk out there when it rains, all the time. We have vehicles that drive there, they don't sink in. We let people hunt on that property, you'll see vehicles out back, they're hunting deer all the time. There's no problem with them sinking in.
So, the dilemma is, just to make it clear, if we were to vote on it and it doesn't go through, you would be required to open the hearing all over again,
To refile.
to refile.
To refile.
So, I hate to say it, but maybe the prudent thing would be to wait the month.
So what you're basically saying to me, a month from now, you need a report from who?
I don't know.
That would be, what's his name?
David Cowell.
David Cowell.
Mr. Chairman, can I just
Yeah.
say something?
Go ahead.
First of all, nothing's gonna change, I agree, that the plants are there, they're
Yeah.
not gonna change, that's the first thing. Second thing is, David, when he was out there, you saw his report, he agreed to the line based on the plants and the hydrology and the hydric soils analysis, except for small areas we moved the flags, and I agree with that. He is not a plant guy, he's not the grass guy, he admitted that to us in the field, and he admitted that when he did his report, he didn't know how to do it. So we took the position that go to the people who know how to do it, UMass Amherst. They confirmed what we had, it supports exactly what we submitted. Nothing's gonna change. The next point, and I'm gonna go to Matt, what he just said, I've been in several recent hearings where what Matt said agrees with everything that's been done in other towns. You basically have to negate the two people who are new as if they never existed, and you start off with the five. I don't know any other way to look at that, you've got to be unfair.
Al and I go way back. I've been doing wetlands permitting since 1985. I was Deputy General Counsel from 85 to 90. And I've written some of these rules, and I have advised Concom as well. And this is a subject, at least in terms of the procedure that I'm referring to.
Okay.
The DEP has adjudicatory hearing decisions. So with all due respect to what Town Council's advised you, while that might be the safest way to go, it's not consistent with DEP's interpretation of how it applies in adjudicatory hearing.
Okay. Al, what's your opinion?
Well, my opinion is, it isn't gonna change any from what it is right now. In another month, you know, the plants that are there are gonna grow a little more. And I'm happy with the report from UMass.
Cheryl?
We can call a special meeting for next week and check with town council, but how about this for a compromise? How about you guys come back on April 17th? We get David here because it's like a he said, she said, and he's not here to represent his facts, and it's almost like you're contradicting what's in his report. So
But the
how about,
UMass report
Huh?
is what we're going on.
Well, UMass report, he did not
He didn't
witness
do.
where they
He had
came
asked-
from
yeah.
and whether it was a broad enough
it's
sample.
a compromise. April 17th, they go back on the agenda, we have,
Decision. David is not the right person. David is incompetent. He went out there, walked it, and could not make a decision.
Of course not, because it was mowed.
So,
You're
Yeah, but-
trying to
I'm trying to
identify the
put
grass
you
Joe,
on
and they just
this.
mowed it.
let's
and
not do
April
this.
17th.
Let's not get into this cross-arguing.
It was mowed because I was told to mow it.
Yeah,
Listen,
let's try and be
nothing's gonna change a
productive.
month from now, unless you guys find another reason not to get
Is it not their
approved.
decision?
No.
I mean, they said they wanted us to vote, so. We're not, but you guys are, and that's what they asked for. It's their risk. They have the right to take it.
They're gonna vote 3-2 instead of 10.
Yeah.
A motion to
Yeah, wait.
recess.
Oh,
What's that?
So you.
A motion for a recess.
Motion for a 5-minute recess.
Okay, sounds good.
Do I have a second for a recess?
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So what we came up with is, if we get a second on it, we can vote on the motion, but we would reserve the right to hold off for 7 days till our legal counsel reviews it. See if he agrees with your interpretation. Is that fair? So in other words, we would vote on it,
We vote on it tonight. So
and if it was in the affirmative, or whatever, either way, we would wait for town council to tell us if we had the right to
If we-
vote on
So
it.
what you're saying is if we get a second and 3 people vote in favor, you would wait 7 days to see if town council agrees with that. What happens if he does not?
Yeah.
It's just
Then what?
negative, it's just, then we have to reapply.
Then you'd have to,
No, that's,
I would rather wait till the 17th to
But
get
that's up-
his 5
that's-
votes.
That's actually up to them.
To get the 5 with just have David here.
that just puts it into.
It's 2 weeks.
We're moving town council, if he was on a particular position. And there's a considerable embarrassed to change his position. That's kind of risky.
But what are we waiting for in 2 weeks then?
So,
No, that's not.
um,
You just
No,
said-
no.
I'm not sure we're comfortable with that alternative, Mr. Chairman, so, not sure what the best way is to proceed. The commission suggested, one of the commissioners suggested waiting a month and seeing what's growing.
Not even a month.
Well,
Wait
we are-
till the
we can
17th and
Yeah.
have David here. And if David says
Yeah.
he agrees with him 100%, those samples are fine, I don't have a problem giving a yes vote. I'm
Or we
more
could
than
call a
happy to
special
give the
meeting for
yes
next
vote.
week.
Does David have those?
Do we,
Well, if you have a meeting next week, David's gonna come out there and see the same kind of grass that he
Well,
saw
that's
before.
right.
Not even, no. See, he sent the letter and said that he had observed the hydric soils. And he said we should wait. But you guys are saying you did the UMass and the DNA thing. Say we call a special, David comes out next week, and David goes, okay, I'm fine with that, with the UMass thing. I'll give you the yes vote. I don't have a problem doing it. Instead of waiting the growing season like he originally requested it to wait for, then I don't have a problem.
What's the date of David's email?
The 3rd,
That he sent you?
April
Just
3rd.
recently?
April 3rd.
That's today.
Today,
He
yeah.
said he thinks, how did he put it?
It says
A
it's to
month.
wait a month.
And he said it's important to get it right. And I feel it's important to get it right because say this board went ahead and they did vote yes tonight and somebody files an appeal, the appeals end up in court for a long, long, long time. And then it just gets really messy. I would rather it be a clean bill of health with nobody second guessing anything.
Well,
I would feel more comfortable with it, to be quite honest.
yeah.
And if David's here, David could speak, your guy can speak, and if they both are on the same page, then no argument for me at all. I'll agree with both of them. But right now, tonight, I can't, not in good conscience, I can't, which then it's kind of unfair because we did ask for the growing season. And it was agreed upon back in November to wait for the growing season. Everybody agreed upon it. And then 2 days after that meeting, all of a sudden it's this DNA testing. And then all of a sudden we find out that you guys are on this. And no disrespect whatsoever to Mr. Cantonese, but to me that's red flags. When something like that happens with an applicant, that is red flags to me. So that doesn't set well. So if David's here and David goes, it's fine, I've read the reports, everything's good, go ahead, then yeah, I'm happy to give the yes vote.
And based entirely on the vegetation at that point.
Yeah,
No
the
other-
only thing
other
they have to
information would be
fix
in
then
this
is the other stuff in the report on that, the flooding. Something's not, the elevation of the flooding's off or something, but based on the vegetation, yeah, if David's in agreement with your guy, with UMass doing the DNA testing on those little 8-inch plugs,
Did, just a point of clarification for us, did David get a copy of that?
Yes,
Okay,
last week.
yeah.
I mean, he's had the report. The heartburn I have with this is, he states in this email I just saw that there's lots of hydric soil. That's not the case. It's not in his report, the one he originally sent you. There was a couple of minor areas we found it, and we moved some of the flags, very short distances. Everything that he agreed upon,
You did,
we did.
yeah, I know.
It was all upland. He agreed to that. It wasn't until the meeting we came in here where he confirmed that he was not comfortable, he didn't know how to do the analysis of the grass, and came in here at the last minute, and we had it, under duress, we had to agree to something. Because I have some experience with other people, I took the request to my client, we went to UMass, they can do this stuff in their sleep, and we put that report together to put that to bed. And now it's now, how many samples do we have to take? My report on the vegetation for this entire area shows a high predominance of the 2 plants that are upland in that area. I mean, there's no difference. This is, the rye is on one end and the middle and the other end. And from the line back, it doesn't change.
And that's my point.
And then we've already waited 4 months. If it wasn't for the holidays, we might have been in here sooner, but
So basically, you have an individual from Hancock who said that they can't do the grass, and then you hire experts who can do it, and they come back with a report, and we're still holding it up.
but the report also says they're wetlands, so I'd like that part of it clarified, and if David can clarify on the DNA part of the testing, because the samples were only taken between 2 flags, and it's flag 21 and flag 22, and it's only 50 feet
But
off, and that's
That's where
it.
they had the disagreement before, that's
As
what
I said-
the point I was
But
trying
I
to
read
make.
all of David's report, and I couldn't find it where that was
But
the
when he
only
was here
district.
That's
before,
what
he
he said
spoke
in
to this,
person.
that's the area that was in, I'm using the word contention. You guys
Right.
had a little bit of a disagreement, and then you moved the wetland to accommodate.
But David's point when he was here was that from the wetland marker, the tree line, there should have been a no disturb zone for 25 feet. And that was cut. So he couldn't make a plant identification to start with,
Yeah,
okay? That was because there was a
misunderstanding.
misunderstanding at our point. So basically, he did not have a virgin field to go look at. And so I would think that if we are looking to preserve a wetland and make sure that we don't fill wetlands, that at least that 25 feet buffer needs to be looked at.
he was in the entire, he was right up to the line.
You have
We sampled
38
right
acres
up
of
to the
wetland.
line.
And to Peter's
You have
point,
38, excuse me, but you have 38 acres. We know 37 acres is wet.
Yeah.
We're not trying to do
Yeah.
anything with 37
no, I
acres.
understand that.
We agree
But,
upon that.
but to Peter's point here too, is, I mean, that's why they got an expert in to resolve that issue, and
And then they gather their report, they turn it into Hancock, they turn it into us, and there's no red flags if you hire experts, and because the applicant hired somebody, I don't see a red flag when they hire experts that know what they're talking about when this individual tells us that he doesn't have the expertise to do it and he needed. So, I mean, I'm not gonna,
All right. Well, whatever wherever we're going. Where are we going? We're going to
So-
a meeting next week, or we're not? And
So, where does that leave us?
I would suggest we ask our town council to give us a view of your world, of your opinion, and we have a special meeting planned for next week, and if he
I
disagrees.
can't meet next week.
It's okay.
Yeah,
We know your position.
Yeah, my position.
And if he disagrees before then, we could always then see what you want to do next. How does that sound?
Can we get David here though for it, just to clear it all up?
Or you can get it in writing, we'll ask him all the questions you want if you
well,
can't.
I think the 1 week delay depends on whether David has a schedule to get here.
Right.
We're willing to have it continued for the week, if you can schedule a special meeting. What I'd ask, since you're looking for some interaction from town council, if you, I don't know what your procedure is, but give town council the okay to communicate directly with me, so that I can give my legal opinion to town council about the procedure.
And Al has your
Sure.
information?
Yeah, I can get it to
Okay.
Al.
You can just communicate with Ramonda and she can give
Yeah.
it directly to him.
Sure.
Sound like a plan?
I was
Sure.
just gonna ask them how the voting would work, just to be confirmed, that's all I was gonna ask, that's all we need to know. We don't really need anything else, we just need to confirm
Mhm.
the voting rules, that's it.
Right.
That's all we need from him.
Okay, yep, that's true.
Yeah.
But do we want to have a meeting and have David here just in case town council goes? No,
Well, right
you
now,
need
why
the
don't we
full-"
make a motion for a meeting next Wednesday at 7:30, and you'll request David to be here. If that all falls apart, we can always, I mean, if the voting part doesn't come to fruition or whatever, we can make
Well, they didn't
adjustments
want to
as
wait
needed.
till the 17th, that's why I
Well,
thought
that's why-
it'd be easier just
so
to
I-
have David here too.
Right.
Then we kill two birds, one
Well,
stone
no,
and
I'm
be
agreeing
done.
with you. So if it happens, so let's make a motion. I make that motion that we have a meeting a week from today at 7:30.
Do I have a second?
Yeah, if you want to do it on the 17th, you can start.
Do we have a second on
Well,
that?
hold on, hold on.
Hold on, 17th is fine.
Hold
Thanks,
on.
Aaron. So,
We're
If
still
you feel
talking.
strong- If you would prefer to do it on the 17th rather than the 10th, we'll agree to that.
okay, let's do it on the 17th and continue to the 17th at what time?
We have two other hearings on, you can meet earlier at 7:15, or you can, actually have three items on, they wouldn't be heard until after 8. So, 7:15?
7:15 sounds good.
7:15 on the 17th.
We'll have an early start.
I make that motion.
Second? Anybody second?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay.
Thank you, folks.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
So what do we got next? Did we do the,
Did we finish?
we didn't do 290, did we?
6 and 7,
Yeah, you
Oh, we
11.
did, okay.
Yeah.
6 and 7.
We finished with 5?
No, 5.
Yes,
You
you
was-
are. You were.
Al-
Did you
Al
finish
was
up,
done.
Al? on-
Yes, he did.
You're done?
You're on
Okay.
6.
6, proposal for future agenda items,
No.
okay? CPC representatives report.
Well, you may want to put on the agenda that there's an interest in automating the
Oh, yeah.
dam at Alice Pond.
They shot that down at the MVP meeting this week.
Not as of Friday.
Well, this,
Do you
Well-
want it to go on the agenda? We can talk about
Yeah.
it.
We can put it on
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
agenda.
we'll put it
but
on
we're
the
not
agenda.
talking
Then talk
about
about
it
it.
now.
Okay, so CPC representatives report.
Just same thing happening. We're just getting ready for the annual meeting in May to present the projects, and that's the only thing that CPC's been working on.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay.